We're giving you here an introduction into completing the square. This is one of the methods we're going to use to solve quadratic equations. So to start with, we want to talk about expanding out squares. So if we wanted to expand this, remember x plus 7 squared is the same thing as taking x plus 7 times x plus 7. So to expand this, we use our FOIL method. So the first terms are going to multiply to get x squared. Outside terms multiply to get 7x. Inside terms multiply to get 7x. And the last terms multiply to get 49. So when we combine like terms in the middle, we get x squared plus 14x plus 49. Similarly, down here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use our FOIL method. So we'll get x squared minus 5x plus 25, which becomes x squared, minus 10x, and then plus 25. So the thing to notice is that these are both in our ax squared plus bx plus c, a standard quadratic form. So here are a is 1, b is 14, and c is 49. Here a is 1, b is negative 10, and c is 25. So the key with these to completing the square is if you're given the a and b value, we want to be able to find the c that's going to create a perfect square like the ones we just had. So there's going to be a set pattern here. You're going to find b over 2 first, and then you're going to square it, and then you're going to add that b over 2 squared, and that's going to create a perfect square trinomial. So notice in their example here, the b, the coefficient in front of x is 22. So you divide that in half to get 11, square it to get 121. And once you've added that, you get x squared plus 22x plus 121. Your perfect square is going to be x plus that b over 2 as a quantity squared. So here, if we want to try to find the value of c, it's going to make a perfect square. You want to find your b, which is 18, cut it in half to get 9, square it to get 81. So as a trinomial, it's going to look like this. And then in perfect square form, it would look like that. Here your b is negative 26. Make sure the sign goes with it. b over 2 is going to be negative 13. And when we square it, we get 169. So in trinomial form, it would look like this. And as a perfect square, it's going to look like this. Make sure, it's very important, the sign has to go with it. Your b over 2 is what's going to go inside of your perfect square. b here is 11. b over 2 is just going to have to stay as 11 over 2. It doesn't simplify to anything nice. So when we square it, we're still going to get something rather unpleasant, another fraction. But once we put it in our perfect square form, it's going to look like that. So one thing to remember, if your b is a fraction already, when we cut it in half, this is going to be the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. So just be careful when you are dividing. If your b is a fraction, just multiply that denominator times 2. So we're just going to do a couple of these. Again, we're looking for your b. b here is going to be negative 10. We're going to cut it in half to get negative 5, and square it to get positive 25. So as a trinomial, it's going to look like this. And as a perfect square, it'll look like this. Remember, b over 2 is what's going inside. Here your b is 60. Cut it in half to get 30. Square it to get 900. So in trinomial form, it looks like this. And as a perfect square, it looks like this. Again, b over 2 is what's going inside. So this is going to be kind of yucky. b is negative 3. Cut it in half to get negative 3 over 2. Then you square that to get positive 9/4. So as a trinomial, it's going to look like this. Again, kind of gross. But just remember that your b over 2 is what's going inside. So I'm just going to do this last one here, number 5, just to show what this looks like. So your b here is 1/2. So again, when you cut that in half, you're going to multiply your denominator times 2, which is going to be 1/4. And then when you square it, 1/4 times 1/4 is 1/16. So as a trinomial, it's going to look like this, and as a perfect square, it's going to look like this. Again, b over 2 is what's going inside, and that's the important thing. So again, this is our formula. Find your b over 2, and then you square it. And your perfect square trinomial is going to look like that.